Hey, hi, this is Paul Elliott with CAF News 2022. We are bringing various vendors so people can see what's coming to the show. Remember, November 11th, 12th, and 13th. So here I have Richard Pinto of Treehaus Audiolabs. He has a very unique product. He was at Capital Audio Fest last year. Absolutely beautiful work, a lot of hand work involved, and a very unique system, very pure sounding system, open baffle, SCT, tube amps. It's just people like me just love all that stuff. So Richard, take it away and let us know a little bit about Treehaus, yourself, and what you're bringing to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, Treehaus Audiolab, we specialize in three products primarily. We have field coil speakers, which are live edge wood and an open baffle. We have directly heated triode amplifiers, and then we have a transformer-based preamplifier. The speakers are our main focus, and the real heart of the system is the field coil driver. They're vintage Telefunken clang film drivers from the 20s, 30s, and 40s that a gentleman named Oleg Rulet rebuilds in Germany. He has a huge archive of these. He's been rebuilding them for over 20 years. And I fell in love with them several years ago and decided they needed a product built around them. They're very natural sounding, they're very quick, but they're not astringent sounding. So I think the real core of the Treehaus technology is actually kind of based in a Japanese term called wabi-sabi. And wabi-sabi is about celebrating imperfection in things and appreciating the naturalness of things and the transience of things. And Treehaus Audiolabs speakers and products, they're not about accuracy. They're about sounding real, sounding natural. If you think about musical instruments, some of the finest instruments, they're handmade. They're not synthetic materials. Guitarists will fall in love with a certain lacquer on the finish, certain wood. Wood instruments are the same way, pianos. You don't see a lot of carbon fiber and Corian and things like that. So we kind of have that essence in our speakers as well. Even the human voice, it's organically formed. It's not scientific and made in a lab. So the Treehaus speakers kind of celebrate that. The live edge wood adds a sense of randomness to the sound. The handmade paper cones are imperfect in their own way. But all of these imperfections make things sound more natural. It's a very different take than a lot of mainstream hi-fi, where there's a lot of science, of traditional kind of science and measurements and things like that, and like the newest materials. We've kind of taken a lot of actually more ancient audio technologies like early triodes, a lot of transformers in our electronics, and kind of reimagine that kind of a 21st century execution. Field coil speakers, if you're not too familiar with them, use a large electromagnet to create the magnetic field that helps the voice coil move. And the advantage there is there's a lot more energy involved there. So the field coil has a lot more dynamic range to it, and a lot more energy and punch to it. And it also has a lot more nuance to it at the same time. It doesn't lose any texture in the sound. Talking about the older technologies, triodes are some of the earliest vacuum tubes. And we kind of base our sound around that as well. And again, like the speakers, vacuum tubes are not accurate, but they sound natural. We talk about Susumu Sakuma kind of being our inspiration for our amplifier design. And he kind of realized that when you take a directly heated triode tube, use it as a driver through a transformer to a power tube, there's kind of this nice harmonic that happened. And we kind of found that harmonic is really nice. It sounds nice to the ear. It sounds very natural. But then because it's a transformer, there's no capacitor sound in there. Actually, all of our products don't have any capacitors in the signal path. So there's no coupling capacitor in our amplifier. And then in our preamplifier, we use transformers as well. On the topic of the preamplifier, our big part of the preamplifier is using a transformer-based volume control. And how this works is in a traditional setup where you use a resistor or potentiometer, the resistor is kind of throwing away a certain level of voltage and information to bring down the volume. In a transformer, you're just converting voltage, which is basically the sound level signal, and current. So you don't throw anything away as you're adjusting the volume. And what you'll find in our preamplifier is it doesn't have to be turned up loud for you to kind of get all the texture and nuance. It's there even at low volumes. So throughout the volume range, you have the same amount of detail and information being transferred to the amplification. In addition, in that preamplifier, we use a 4P1L tube, which sounds very close to a directly heated triode. So that gives the preamplifier a little bit of active amplification. We found that necessary for properly driving things as opposed to a purely passive system. And then also in the amplifier, we use a line out transformer. So there, again, there's more iron in the system, rather than using a capacitor. So we try to keep everything with transformers and directly heated triodes when possible. This speaker this year we're bringing is more of our mainstream speaker. It's called the National Treasure. It only has a field coil full range driver and it has a permanent magnet on the woofer. This speaker design is a little more cost effective, and yet it's like 95% of the top level speaker. As you know, Paul, in audio, sometimes it takes a lot more effort to get a little bit more benefit. So we're happy to kind of show the speaker. It's also made a very interesting box elder with a lot of kind of like a red stain in it. It was kind of rotted, so it has a lot of black epoxy in it. It's a very interesting looking speaker. It's actually on our website on the cover page right now. So we're excited to show that off. And then we'll have our 300B amplifier there and our preamplifier. Also, I should mention, we've also teamed up with Iconoclast cables, which is kind of it's like a moonshot for Belden to make the best audiophile cables possible. We started trying them earlier this year here to try them out, see how they sounded, and they're fantastic. So we're excited to have them on board with us.
What's your source going to be?
Our source is, digital is easier for audio shows. So we have a vintage concert fidelity non-oversampling DAC that we've actually modified here to replace a coupling capacitors in it with some V caps and did some things to the power supply. We're also going to have our vinyl setup, which is a microseiki turntable and a fidelity research tone arm. We have a Dava field coil cartridge we'll be demonstrating as well. So that's kind of new to the scene. Talking to Darius there, the cartridge is also an interesting thing. Field coil in the cartridge gets a lot more detail, again, because of that magnetic strength. It has a cactus needle cantilever. So it's a very interesting piece, and it sounds fantastic. It's extremely dynamic and yet ultra fluid at the same time. I'm excited for people to hear that too.
Wow, and you are bringing a lot of new stuff to the show. Again, everybody, remember Capital Audio Fest 2022, November 11th, 12th, and 13th, Rockville, Maryland. You want to head up to room 508 for a real treat, Treehouse Audiolabs. They're unique. So thank you, Richard. And I'm assuming you'll be there. And
yes, I'll be there starting Wednesday.
Okie doke. Thank you very much. And I'll see you then.